Hi, hello, and welcome to Ink Crash Course. This is being presented by Seattle Indies, and I am your humble host, Paxton. This is intended for a couple things, but primarily this is being recorded in October of 2024, and in just a couple days we're going to be participating in Ink Jam, which is a 3-day event where we will be making our own little story games over in Ink. So this is to talk about what that is. Ink is a narrative scripting language, and it is fantastic for making interactive stories and dialogue. Who am I? My name is Paxton. I use they, them pronouns. I am a senior narrative tech designer over at Bungie. I am not representing Bungie in an official capacity in this space, and I will not be answering any questions related to my day job. If you'd like to catch me at one of our many Seattle Indies socials, I will be happy to discuss Classic Marathon with you over a beer. I am a proud parent of 2 toddlers. I am the one in the center with the beard, as you may have guessed. I am a writer, artist, and designer in my hobby. I was most recently the project lead for a game called The Maze Gallery, which is built in Ink, where we had 34 contributors, 27 of whom were authors, all contribute story to a single game that got compiled together. So just so you know, Ink is also very nice for collaborative workflows. I am an organizer here at Seattle Indies. I run the writer's room as well as the feedback circle, and I am a game jam enthusiast. I love a good game jam, and that is why I'm recording this in preparation of Ink Jam this weekend, because I want more people to participate. So, like I said, this is what we're here to do. We're first here to learn Ink. So we're going to be getting acquainted with what those structures look like, what the code looks like, and using the Inky editor in particular. There's lots of other tools, gadgets, and scripting languages, but we're just here to learn the basics and get started. Like I said, we're here to prep for Ink Jam. Especially during our Q&A section and after this airs, please talk about what you want to make. Talk about what inspires you, and you may find that there are other people in the crowd or in text channels who want to collaborate or just like what you're doing. And related to that, we're here to be a community. I am not the kind of writer who can write solo. I know there are some people who are, but that's not me. I need collaborative partners. I need someone to bounce ideas off of. And so I love game jams especially, but all sorts of collaborations, because it means I get to say silly things and get an active response. And I find it so invigorating to work with other people. And I think that as y'all explore this narrative scripting language and making games together, that you will enjoy it as well. You'll notice that we are not going to do a couple things. We are not here to talk about how to write. Hopefully you already know how to do that. We're not here to talk about where ideas come from. We're not here to talk about how to publish a game, how to make money on a game, how to break into the games industry in a narrative design or writing capacity. This is going to be fairly focused, fairly tight, but we can delve into some of the digressions further during Q&A afterwards. So first, I've got some Ink resources for you. Like I said, the very first resource that I shared was exactly this slide deck. So please go through it. Or otherwise, you can go ahead and type these things in. The Inky download page is going to be the first and most necessary if you want to follow along either with the live demo or just participate to begin with. The Inky engine is real easy to get into. And Ink also has, as a matter of fact, let me just go ahead and click on some of these. So this is what the Ink website looks like. It's got a great basics tutorial also linked. It's got a great writer's manual also linked. Download as you want. And lastly, I'm also going to link to InkJam as well, which starts in, ooh, great. I love a countdown. And we won't know the theme until it starts. We'll probably have the word ink somewhere hidden in the title, though. All right, some definitions. First, let's talk about what narrative design is. So I am separating narrative design from game writing. Writing for games is very simply writing story that goes into games. And especially on a large studio, that's exactly what I do. Narrative design goes a little bit further in the other ways that story is told through a game. So this can be the words that players read, but it can also be the types of choices that players make. It can be the types of characters that players interact with, or just see out in the world. All of those things that are part of a story, it can also be UI. All of those things that tell a story as part of a game are informing that narrative design. And so narrative designers need to get very messy with a lot of other collaborators if you're working on a large scale game that has lots of those things. Ink is a markup language. If that's scary to you, it shouldn't be, because it's not a full programming language. You can open up any .ink file and you'll see this is just text. It's plain text with a couple other pieces of syntax, like using asterisks to mark a choice, or using a hyphen to mark a gather, where the choices come back together. And it is very, very simple, easy to read and easy to get into. And lastly, I'm going to go ahead and define a video game. And if you disagree, you can go to slide 16. Like I said, slides have been linked. All right. Oh, enough fiddle faddle. Let's go ahead and start making a game. So let's say that you went over to Ink and you downloaded Inky and you open it up. This is what you get. And you might say, Paxton, that is a very small text. And so I say, okay, fine. Make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, all right. That's probably fine. I will also go ahead and move my face over here and see a little bit more output. So this is a valid Inky story. So this is the Inky editor. You'll see that we can edit things over here. And this is the output. So this is the game that we're playing. Once upon a time, there were 2 choices. There were 4 lines of content. You'll notice that these words reflected in the editor part start with an asterisk. Like I said, that marks a choice. And then they lived happily ever after. This line is marked with a hyphen, that is a gather. One of the best things about Inky is it lets you go through your game very, very quickly. So we've got a back. We can go back one choice, or we can go back all the choices. And we can see, hey, both of these go back together. So that's it, folks. You have all you need, realistically, to go write interactive stories. You've got choices. You can bring that flow back together so you're not going forever in a time cave scenario. But we're going to go a little bit further, just so you have lots of extra panache in your storytelling. Let's say that I want another set of choices after this. They lived happily ever after. Or did they? Please no typos on stream. So now you'll notice what I did. I used these 2 pieces to split my narrative even further. And then I have one set of text before everything ends. So instead of gathering that story back together, where the branches split and then came back together for this line, because this line is always going to be present, these endings split and never came back together. Of course, they both ended, so that's easy for my scope. But that is one of the ways that you can continue. So we've got these. Let's get a little bit more complicated. We're going to add a little bit more structure here. I'm going to say... Thank you. Yes, I can. I am watching chat. What happened after their unhappy end? I don't know. I can't think of any sad things that would happen right now. I all fell asleep bored. So one of the nice things about Inky is that it will tell me when I do things wrong. So right now, if I get rid of that end, I get a little warning that says, hey, go over there to line 28. There is an apparent loose end, which means that this section, this is called a knot, doesn't actually have an end. So I'm going to go ahead and give that an end. So things end. And then another loose end exists. Because these choices diverge, but only this one ends, because we don't gather before the end again. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use a divert instead of an end. So I'm still going to keep that little caret. I'm going to say that no goes to unhappy continued. And yes goes to continued. So white space doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and use that for, I'm going to go ahead and indent that for readability. We can play through our game again. So once upon a time, there were two choices. There were 4 lines of content, and they lived happily ever after. Or did they? Yes? No? What do we think? And get a thumbs up in the chat or a thumbs down. Are they happy? All right, we're happy. Oh, they did, for sure. And then what happened after that? So you can see that this little simple divert goes to wherever this knot is named. And then they got pizza or tacos. Whatever they choose, yum. Delicious. Oh no, we gotta vote for tacos. Let me go back. Whew. All right, saved it. So this has been a live demo. It is really that easy to just go ahead, jump into Ink, and start putting these things together. Let's talk for a brief moment about other things. So you'll notice when I was talking about my structure, I was talking about how things diverged. You could say that they branched and then they converged. They gathered back together. This is called a branching structure. And it is a very easy to understand structure. It is also an efficient use of dev time. I mentioned Time Cave briefly. That is a piece of relic game where you start with one choice and then you write whatever the response is for that choice, and then you continue onward and outward, adding new content and new choices, one for every path. That is a terrible use of dev time. So to fix that, we merge those branches back together. You can see this kind of structure in all sorts of visual novels, all sorts of role-playing games. It's very, very common, and it's because it efficiently uses dev time. It's easy to understand, but it doesn't do everything. All by itself, it's very opaque on the first playthrough about what choice that is going to, what the outcome of that choice is going to be. And it can be opaque for a lot of different reasons. So you have to do a lot of extra work to make sure that players understand, if you select right on the thumbstick, then you are actually going to make someone mad, versus, trying to just give like a little bit of a snarky response and then doing something very violent. The other thing is that it is very transparent afterward. If you've ever replayed some common visual novels, even the best of them, where they branch and where they come back together becomes very, very clear to the player upon replay. This might not be a bad thing, but for a lot of games, it can feel very cheap if not done well, if the writing doesn't support it, if the other design doesn't support it. So branching, while a great start, I would recommend not doing on its own. Personally, I really, really like the systemic types of games. So these are games where you've got stats. You have conditions behind choices, where there are, different kinds of relationships that you build up, and then your choices down the line are reflective of the choices that you made earlier. This is extremely diegetic, and it's personal. It's personal to each individual playthrough, and it leads to a lot of replayability. You'll see this in a ton of CRPGs. You'll also see it in a lot of dating sims. So I'm slightly diverging from what I mean by a visual novel and a dating sim. But a dating sim is more often a game with the intention of enjoying somebody. The cons to systemic is that it can be difficult to design well. It is very easy to have some just a couple cheapo variables like do they like me, and what this does to your narrative is if you have a dating sim and you have a do you like me type of meter, the player stops playing the game in the way that they stop reading the story, and they just start hunting for choices that will make meter go up, because people are addicted to clicking buttons that make number go up. And it takes a lot of writing just to get started with a good systemic game. So it's a little bit more of a barrier to entry. I would recommend at least sprinkling into a lot of it. I also am a huge fan of world model games. So what I mean by this is, so for our game, The Maze Gallery, it is built all in ink, but the player inhabits a world model. So instead of a branching structure that goes out and in and out and in, we have little hub choices that act as places. So that place then can connect to people, that place can connect to things, that place can connect to other places. That type of world model is fantastic for I'm just going to keep on doing this dance. That type of world model is fantastic for making things feel open, and not like a linear progression, because it's not a linear progression, right? We've diverged from complete linearity. However, it's not going to work for every game. A story or a conversation simulator isn't going to feel very realistic with this type of world model. So it requires being a little bit more intentional about how you're framing it. These are just a couple of the structures that I think you should be aware of. There are many, many, many more. If you go ahead and open up your ink resources, which I will right this second, this is what most people will see if you go and look for some good resources on story-based games. This is a fantastic article by Sam Cabo-Ashwell. This is that time cave I was mentioning. We've got one piece. Let's see. Can I make that a little bit bigger? Yes. Okay. Where you've got one little choice at the beginning that then splinters out to many, many, many pieces. This is a gauntlet. This is a terrible choice design if you want your players to enjoy the game. So this is where every choice is wrong except for the one that's right. It has a lot of looping. It can be funny if you've ever played Dick McButts Gets Kicked in the Nuts. That is exactly this game design. It is absolutely. I can also drop the links here. They're entirely within the slides, which are up as well. Branch and bottleneck. This is what I would call the basic branching. This is where you have a choice link, you branch, and it comes back together, and then you branch again. This is what you would actually see if you were to map out a lot of visual novels, where things get a little bit messy and then they come back together. This also goes over other structures like going on quests, which all have their own individual little branching, and they go into each other a little bit other ways. This is the world model structure I was talking about, where you have a map that you can go back and forth between. There's a sorting hat, which I'll go over a couple more of these. Loop and Grow is a fantastic one. So Loop and Grow is actually one that you don't have to do in a purely conversational or story-based structure. Loop and Grow is great for games where you're going to put a narrative layer on top of other gameplay, where that gameplay can be something like a roguelite, or something like a world model where you are, or I should say a Legend of Zelda-like, where you're going out in the world and you're doing things, so you get resources and you come back to a hub world, and then new options open up based on what you've done out in the world. So you went and collected that item, you went and finished that dungeon, you come back, and then the little Hyrule Castle has changed, and now you get to interact with it differently. So when I talk about narrative design as opposed to game writing, narrative design is thinking about what structures are in your game, simply or complexly, and how you're using them and to what effects. Another great one, again, I'm just going to click straight from the slides, is this one from M. Short. Emily Short has an amazing blog full of fantastic things that everyone should read. But this one is also about small structures, again, going based on all these different types of choices. This is the track switching choice, score choices, which is a systemic model, using hub and spoke. The sorting hat is very funny because it's acting like branching, but it's not. You get the feeling of branching, but you actually have to write much less. For a lot of mobile visual novels like Choices, this is exactly the structure that you see from beginning to end. And one of the things that I would love to talk with you all about here is this right here. So you might see like, wow, those are super cool. How would I ever see those in ink? Go here and play it. So I'm going to digress once more. This is itch.io. It is a popular hosting platform for games. One of the nice things that Inky has, if you were to take your game, is you can say export for web, and a little dialog will pop up, and then you can just save it and zip it up. It will give you an index as well as a completely playable game, and then you can upload it to itch.io, and this is exactly the interface that you will have. Bop, bop, bop. Easy peasy. So this is from Allworms, which is another person who is very passionate about narrative design, does some cool courses. And this is a resource that goes over a lot of those structures that we were just talking about from those blogs, and puts them in ink. So if you go and download, then you can also sure. I'm going to go ahead and switch to live demo 2. Here we are. You can literally see how these work. So again, we're in Inky. I'm going to go ahead and plus. I'm going to keep myself over on the left-hand side because I'm less concerned with what the code is doing. It's very well commented. Let's take a look at the microscale things. Tell me about one of the structures that we talked about that y'all might be more interested in. Loop and Grow world map. Fantastic. I think Loop and Grow is in macro scale. Yeah. Loop and Grow. So this is a little bit of a bigger story, but I'm happy to play it on stream. It's January. You've just moved to a new country. It's a bit expensive, but I'm full of hope. I'll make so many friends. This is amazing. The country is wonderful. What should we focus on? Work, exploring, or a local language class? Let's explore. It's February. I could really settle here. This will be great. Let's take a local language class now. I'm getting better and better at. I think I found my people. It's March. Every day I'm grateful for my community. I'm going to have so much fun. Let's take another local language tax. It's tax season. My community is very supportive, though. This is going on a great adventure. Let's explore one more time. It's getting repetitive. It's May. I feel like I belong with my community. Basic thing I was doing, it's now twice as expensive for foreigners. So what's going on here? Let's go ahead and move my face back over and talk about the code for this one. This is another great thing about ink. You can have lots and lots of ink files. So each one of these has its own little story file in it. This is how we were able to connect up so many different entries for the maze gallery, is everyone was able to submit a working story, and then we just did a little bit more work to match them all up on the technical side. The writing side, it's a different monster. Okay, so you can see that we start with a cycle. This one goes through all the months of the year. And we've got a few variables. You can see at this top, we actually define a whole bunch of variables in case we can, and most of these are Boolean, so they're very simple, true, false. We can be depressed, we can be bored, we can be in love, we can get a dog or a cat, we can be part of a community. And then what's happening is when we've got a couple, I'm just going to miss that. If you've got a very large ink game, this one right here also has the different knots. So I mentioned before that we can label where we're going with knots. I'm just going to pop down to the choices right here. So these are our choices. We can focus on work, which gives us money. We can explore, which gets boring after you do it a couple times. If you have a dog, and if you can't have a dog and you have not gotten a dog and you have $300, you can buy a dog. It's a little bit of a of a monster of a choice. These in the front are conditional. So what's happening is that we've got a couple booleans like can dog and not got dog. So if you it costs some money, but then you get a dog, and so your other choices and things can react in that way. And then we've got these little tools. These are called shuffles. So this is any time that you don't want to know the outcome of a thing. If you want to take all those options, shuffle them together, and spit one out to the player. Whenever they take a class or a workshop, they might take a pottery class. They might take a drawing session. They didn't choose these things. They just chose take a class or workshop. If you're bored, you get to party. You get a lot of things when you're bored. Let's get bored. Pop back over here. My community had a great time. Rental crisis. Real estate crisis. Rent is up. Let's see. I can take a trip to party or take a class on a workshop. I don't know what we should do. Let's go to a party. It's July. My community is organizing a cool event. I got fined for no reason. I'm seeing some chatter about if we can do random choices. Yes-ish. It's a little bit more difficult than a very simple story. You can make random choices. It is not a structure that Ink supports super easily, but it can happen. I'll tell you what. Circle back with me on random choices, and we can do a little bit more, either post recording or post the event, and I can show you how I have a huge random choice bucket for the Maze Gallery. Okay, so one other thing that I wanted to show is I also have a personal example of a game that you can download, and it is explicitly to teach you about some of those syntactical things in Ink. So I haven't been talking a whole lot about the syntax. I've just been reassuring you that it is simple, which may sound a little bit spooky. But let's play Wherefore Art Thou, Scooby-Doo. So the mystery machine pulls up to a creepy villa in Verona. Daphne looks excited. A free trip to Italy. Can you believe our luck? Okay, gang, what should we do? Should we split it for clues, jump into the pool, or look for lore? And how do we win this trip again? Let's go for the lore. Scooby points to himself proudly, and Shaggy says, "We ate like 4,000 boxes of Scooby snacks, so they sent a surprise." So now we got some more lore, and the story continues. The gang approaches the front desk. Daphne is speaking with the clerk, who hands her a keyring with a creepy smile. Do enjoy your stay. And now we get to another choice. Which key is to the pool? Why isn't there anyone else here? Or just say thanks and wander off. Oh, we're going to the pool. For sure. The front desk clerk points out a thick iron key attached to the ring. You'll find the gate down the stairs and through the lockers. Just don't get locked in. And so you'll see our choice. Thanks now has us go to the pool instead of wandering around aimlessly. In the hot Italian sun, the gang enjoys a relaxing day by the pool. Velma reads under her umbrella. Daphne floats in the shallow end, and Fred goes diving. Boy, what I wouldn't give for a hot dog right now. And now we've got a little bit of loop here. So on the code side, I'm going to go ahead and swap, because like I said, this is free to download right now. Anyone can go ahead and play that as they like. I'm going to swap over to take a look at some of this code behind here. So this opening is a very simple. It's a named knot. We got a little start title that goes to the opening, and then a little gather. We've got some very simple choices that all gather back together and push us forward. Should be familiar, and the only thing that's different is it's a little bit more interesting than single sentence lines. Then we have this right here. So you'll notice that this gather, this little hyphen, has a name because it's got some parentheses around it. That means that it is labeled. So this is a labeled gather, which has the option of being able to divert to. So when we asked which key is to the pool, instead of pushing us forward in the story, at the end, it diverts back to desk choices. So this creates a little choice loop, one thing that I really love for conversations, because that means that our choices can cycle back and forth, and then the logic can think about, what have we seen? Because we can also label our choices. So we know pool location. This is a labeled choice. I don't need to declare a variable. I just need to know if I've seen this particular piece of content. And I've called this particular piece of content no pool location. So if you don't know the pool location, which is what that little, what do you call it? Exclamation point is doing, then you get the thanks wander off choice. And then if you do know the pool location, then you can say thanks and you go directly to the pool. Not too bad, right? And then we've got another not. This is the pool. So when you take a look and open up here, you can see that there are a couple different things that we're doing to just get that choice loop going and be somewhat reactive to players' choices. And then I've got an ambient shuffle here, which does quite a bit of things. Where's my ambient shuffle? Down here. So we start at the front with a little list of what everyone is doing. This ambient shuffle, what it does is it goes and grabs a particular line. So as you hang out at the pool, more things happen. And this shuffle is just putting little bits of randomness inside as you're playing. I'm not going to dive too deeply into this, but I wanted to give a little bit more structure into the syntax. Okay. So you should now have a pretty clear idea of what this thing does and how it does it. So what can we make? First, this is best for story games. Simpler or not, choice-based games can be made within Inky and Inky alone. You don't have to go out and grab Unity. You don't have to go out and grab the best UI. You can just make story games here and then hit publish for web, put them on your itch, put a price tag on them, and make money if they're good enough. Good luck. And you can also write dialogue. When you do start to layer in other things, it can become quite powerful. I mentioned how each ink story can be linked up to other ones. What you can do is you can take those individual pieces and hook them up into other things too. If you want to go the route of going into Godot, if you want to go the route of going into any other larger game engine, there are lots of different plugins and supports for Ink that will help you just take whatever you've written and port it somewhere else, which is super handy for testing. I love using this for narrative prototypes because it means that you can start writing. Like if you're on a game jam and your team is going out and building the game and you're not super confident about working in the engine, you can just start writing in Ink and get something playable, shop it around to your other teammates. Is the characterization coming through? Is this dialogue working? And then hand them the exact Ink file that you've been playing, and they can plug it into the game. It takes a little bit more technical know-how, which is a little bit outside the scope of this talk. Happy to chat more about that if people are interested during Q&A. Okay, so I meant to have lots of links in here, and I'm just terrible at collecting links. But where is InkJam? InkJam has a bunch of these linked down here. So there are certain UIs that you can layer on top that give you lots of fun tools like Attrayment. There are other editors that you can use. You don't have to use Inky. You can use Calico, which change how you write in Ink. And then there's lots and lots of templates and tools for taking this inky thing and making it something else. One thing that I've been playing with is Poink and Clink, because everyone likes to hide the word ink. It's not really hiding. And this makes it a point and click game. There's a visual novel template from Josh Grams, which works exactly as you would expect. It's not quite as robust as RenPy, but it does mean that you can write your game in ink, and then if the rest of the mechanics follow through, hey, you've still got a visual novel whenever you want it. There's a Bitsy-like tool. If you've ever used Bitsy, this is how you would play. You have a little person there that you can walk around in. Cannot leave west yet. Little doors that you can go through. And so there is a little UI that lets you literally create the sprites for the walls and the character. And then there's also ink built in. So you can also write those stories for what it means whenever you say, get to this guy. Get to this guy, I forget. I just go around. Up. Wait a minute. Seems like I should go through there. Oh well. Anyways, as far as resources go, there are a ton of them. I'm happy to talk about those more. And to continue on your inspirational journey, lots and lots of games have been made with ink. I had to sneak my own game in here along lots of other much more popular and successful games. But I want to talk about a couple different ways that people have used ink. Obviously, you can use ink to layer in dialogue, which is exactly what happens in Signs of the Sojourner, which is a game that is built in Unity, and it's about conversations, but the conversations that you have actually never take place with words. They all take place with cultural references and cards. So it's a deck building game where you're trying to talk to people using those things. I just realized that my head is on top of that. Where the Water Tastes Like Wine is a super cool game where every time that you visit a place, you'll see the same stories crop up over and over again, and you can see those stories take on mythic proportions as they're retold and changed. Heaven's Vault is super cool. It is a 3D game, and this is made by Inkle, the people who make Ink, John Ingold and Joseph Humphrey. And it is a 3D game that involves lots of pointing and clicking to move around the space, and then it references ink for all of those choices. So what they do is they have a fully ink playable version of the game, and then they have hooks within ink that call out to Unity. This should only be available when the player is hovering over this space. This should only be available if the player knows these things. And it's about the archaeology of discovering a lost language. There's lots and lots of really cool examples. And also you can just make amazing visual novels. You can make amazing stories. And it just is a great multiplier. All right, let's do Q&A notes. How well does ink support other languages? Not very. This is actually for two reasons. For one, ink does a lot of things to vary the text by word and line by line. which makes it very difficult for localizers to do things that are localization, that are translation, without rewriting the text from scratch. And that means rewriting it in Ink from scratch. And while you and I, as game writers who are very familiar with the story and then become more familiar with the tech, can very happily just go in and design those structures and make those structures work, it is not as nice to ask the same thing of a translator who may have zero interest in writing it in Inky. So I am in the process of localizing one of my games from Ink right now, and I've seen other people do it. Localization works very well when you can have a unique ID that is tied to every string in your game, or have entirely separate string builds for your game. So you can load up and say, hey, go here, go there. Inky does support a threading of sorts, so you can start one thread in English and then say, actually, I don't want to play in this, I prefer to play in French, and then when you pop over to the French version, you can tell it to go to the same place that the English one has, but it still has the same problem of you're rewriting it from scratch within Inky. The Inkle team has not entirely solved this, so it's mostly up to you if you want to tackle it. Does Inky support text styling? Yes. So, well, actually, I should say. Let's go ahead and let's hop over to our demo game. We're at the tacos question. That might not be very visible. Go back up. All right. Oh, and my head's on the wrong side again. So I've wrapped this one in italic brackets. I've wrapped this one in bold, and you can see that the word pizza is now italicized and the word tacos is now bold. This might sound familiar to any of you who are familiar with HTML, because this is just HTML right now. When this gets outputted, it outputs an HTML file, and within Inky we are viewing this through a web browser user. So if you are exporting to web, yes. It supports text styling quite well, and you can just do anything that you would do on a regular web page. If you are taking this exact sentence and running it through an engine like Unity, the answer is no, because Unity is not a browser. So in that case, you'll either have to write an additional little scrubber to tell Unity, when you see this, make this italicized, or you can do something else to make it different. One thing that Ink supports natively is the ability to tag. Over here, this will show up just as a hashtag. What's nice if you're passing this off to something else, like an engine, if you go to Godot, when you get the choice, you can also, or any line, you can also get the tags associated with that line. So that tag can contain information, and you can encode information in there that will only be seen by the engine and not be seen by the end user. The player is never going to see this hashtag. It's only in there for testing visibility. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I can turn that off. Tag visible. So now it's hidden. Oh goodness, that doesn't look very readable at all. It's being invisible so I can read it. I'm just going to read out questions without proofreading them because I'm very confident in our community. For games that aren't visual novels, an RPG for example, where bits of dialogue are separated by other bits of gameplay, would you make each bit of dialogue its own ink file? Maybe. So the answer to this, it really depends on what your goal is. If you have a lot of writing to be doing, let's say that you have a very sprawling RPG with lots of characters and lots of places. I would say yes, less for the engine side of things and more for the writing consistency side of things. So you could say this is the conversation tree when you're talking to this one character in this one area. And then that conversation tree can be reactive to other things. And then you have lots of different ink files. And then you have your game manage like which one it's pointing to in that instance. You don't have to, but it would make sense for larger works. It especially makes sense if you are doing something. Where is... if you are doing something that has a lot of different moving parts, but mostly what you're doing when you're running your ink is that you are loading up that ink runtime and then you're just having it on in the background. For a game where you are dissociating from the ink content quite often, you can start and stop what ink is doing, or you can just have it running all the time in the background. If you want to have like a Navi character that just kind of like reacts to whatever, and then within, I'll go ahead and drop this little piece of documentation in here. You can do choose choice index. Here, let me do a particular thing. Choose path string. That's it. So you can just tell the story to go to a particular place, and the story will jump around. And I will praise the documentation. Any technical questions that folks have, I will point to documentation. And it's not because I don't want to answer you. It's because there's better explanations that I can come up with off the cuff when it comes to getting especially very specific things like how would I get an ink variable that was set from the story into this game that I'm running in Godot. Well, this is how you do it. You would look at your ink story, and then you would check variable state, whatever it's called there, and then how would you do the reverse? This is running your ink. This is specific to how it engages with something else. This was written specifically for Unity in mind, because the Unity one is the oldest. So some of the other implementations have some slightly different names and their methods or functions, which can be a little bit frustrating. So if you're not working in Unity and something like this is not working immediately off the bat, you probably aren't doing anything wrong. And then this one, the writing with ink, is all the basics, and this has lots and lots of cool choices as well, especially for the very specifics. And you might say like, wow, that's a whole lot. That's a big GitHub page, Paxton. What am I supposed to do with this? You can ignore it, because you know what else you can do. Whenever you're inside Inky, it has these exact things built in. So you can say, I want a notch. Or I want to not, I want to stitch, I want to divert, I want a type of choice, a basic choice that goes away, or a sticky choice that sticks around even after I've already chosen it once. I want different kinds of variables or inline logic. I want to use some of the more technical features like lists. I want to even just import a whole game. Well, you can do that. They've got a whole game down here. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and import the Pontoon game. And then we'll make this a little bit more readable. And I'll move my head over. So this is from one of Inkle's latest versions. It's a game that you can play with a deck of cards in their game Overboard. It's got a full game within it, and then let's go ahead and restart. Go to play game. Move my head over. Fold, bet higher. So the documentation really is quite robust. All right, let's bet higher. Let's go all the way up. 300. I put in 300 pounds. The Karster says someone's feeling lucky. 320 pounds. Hands out a second card. Face down. Take a look. Don't let me see. King of Spades. Making 14. I'm going to stick on 14. Whoop. Karster has 9. Karster has 14. Oh no! Karster has 18. Dealer wins. We lost. Oh, another time that you'll want to use different ink files is if you have a lot of collaborators. And we are very close to the end, so I'm going to say thank you all for playing. Thank you all for coming here. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. This has been a lovely time, and I'm very happy to be participating in Ink Jam with all of you.